Hey everybody, Sally here. Hope you're having an amazing and fascinating day. Yep, that window behind me is still broken. You and I will both be happy to see it when it's finally fixed. In today's video, we're going to talk about some of the most common questions I get asked about RV life and traveling full-time on the road. So, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you think you're subscribed, double check to make sure you still are, because YouTube has a tendency to unsubscribe people. Really appreciate it if you leave a comment, hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications so you find out what's coming up next. Let's roll the intro and get right into this. Thanks for being here. I truly appreciate you. One of the questions I get asked most often is, how do I handle everyday tasks, things like cooking and showering in such a small space? Well, the truth is, and it'll be a theme throughout this entire video, less is more. And, one of the things I do less of is taking a conventional shower. Part of the reason for that is my shower is also storage space. My dirty laundry lives in there. Some of my canned stuff lives in there. And, it's just, sometimes I just don't feel like taking stuff out so I can get in and take a shower. Plus, taking an actual shower doesn't use a whole lot of water because I do Navy-style showers anyway. Turn the water on, get wet, turn it off, soap up, turn the water back on, rinse off. So I don't use that much water. But you do use a fair amount of energy just heating water up to be able to take a shower. And when I do, what I will do is I turn the water heater on, I wait about 15 minutes, and then I turn the water heater off, go ahead and take my shower. If I leave the water heater on during that time, then it's reheating water that I really don't need, beyond that point. So, okay, so am I dirty? No, I'm not dirty. In between taking actual showers, I wash my hair in the kitchen sink, because there's plenty of room to do that, and I got a nice sprayer, and it doesn't take as much water to do that as it does to wait for the water to heat up in the shower to be able to get my whole body wet. And then, when I'm doing that, I use a washcloth and body wash, and I just, stand in the bathroom and wash. Pretty simple, actually, overall. Well, what about cooking? So, I love to cook. And I have a tendency to cook large quantities of things. I've got a whole playlist about things that I've cooked, so make sure you check that out as well. And the way that I do it is, I'll make a large quantity of something, I'll eat it for a few days, and if I've got leftovers, I may go ahead and throw them in the freezer at that point. But I tend to do that. I'll do my big cooking on days when I'm also planning to take a shower, because I've already heated up water. So if I've got a big mess to clean up, and I've got hot water available to do it, I'm kind of maximizing my resources that way. And then the rest of the time, I'll just, reheat something on the stovetop or the induction cooktop, so that I always have hot food available. And that's really pretty much how I handle it. As I say, I like leftovers, so it's not a problem for me. Now, one of the next things I get asked really often is, what's my favorite campground, or what's the favorite place I've ever stayed? And my answer is always the same. All of them. I have never been any place that I truly regret having spent the time at. I've been a few places that I probably would never go back to, but every place I've ever stayed, even if it hasn't been ideal, I've had the opportunity to learn something from that experience as well. My preference is really boondocking on public land. That's where I prefer to be. And we're going to come back to that when we get to one of the bigger questions that I get asked most often. Okay, next up, how do I get my mail and packages? Well, even when I lived in a sticks and bricks, I didn't get mail at my house. And I did it, I used a UPS store. I did that because I didn't want to have Amazon drop-off packages or UPS drop-off packages on my doorstep and take a chance on them, getting wet or getting stolen or any of those things. So I've been using mail services for years to be able to handle that. And currently, I use the Escapees RV Club as my mail service of choice. I've been using them for just about a year now, and I've been very, very happy with their service overall. The way it works is, I'm using the scanning service, so whenever a first-class envelope comes in, they automatically scan the envelope and then upload it to a secure portal that I have to log in through their website to be able to see my envelope scan. And then I've got three choices. I can tell them to destroy the envelope, scan the contents, or hold it for my next scheduled mail delivery. And most of the time I can tell by looking at the envelope whether or not it's something that I need to know what's inside of it or not. And most of the time it is. So first of all, I don't get a whole lot of mail. All of my bills and stuff like that, I just get PDFs through the websites that belong to the billers. So I don't get that much mail. But when something shows up, usually I'll have them open the envelope and scan the contents. Sometimes I can tell from looking at it that I don't need it at all, and I'll just tell them to destroy the envelope. And then once I see the contents, I can decide whether or not it's something that needs to get forwarded to me the next time I get mail. For example, I received a check that I totally was not expecting not very long ago. And so I needed to have that one held to get sent out with mail. So that service has been working super, super well for me. I've been very, very happy with it, and I think it's pretty inexpensive. I think it's running me with the scanning service. I think it runs about $250 a year, and to me it's worth every penny of it. And you can also call and talk to a live person. They're very, very responsive. Great service as far as I'm concerned. Packages, on the other hand, are a little bit more difficult. And in fact, Amazon has really contributed to the proliferation of purchases for many full-time nomads, because it's really easy to order from Amazon and have it sent to an Amazon locker. Now, it may not be an Amazon locker near where I'm currently staying, so usually I'll figure out where I'm going to go next, and I'll look for Amazon lockers along the way, and then time my shipment so that I can pick up my package along the way, because you only have 3 or 4 days to have it sit at the locker, and if you don't pick it up by that time, then Amazon takes it back and gives you a refund. So that's how I do it. All right, here's one of the big ones, and this goes back especially to boondocking, I think. Do I feel safe? Yes, I do. And one reason that I feel safe is that I have a motorhome instead of a travel trailer. And in fact, I had 3 reasons for buying a motorhome even before I went full-time. And the first one was that just the very act of hitching and unhitching would eventually become difficult. Not a problem yet, but eventually it would. The second one was that I would often pass things up because I wasn't sure if I would be able to turn my trailer around in a parking lot, like for something that I thought might be an attraction to go see, or if I'd be able to park at all. So I would pass up a lot of things that I otherwise might have spontaneously gone to. And I have found that having the small motorhome has made that really useful. Sorry, I got interrupted for a moment. Somebody came to the door. And then the third reason, which has turned out to be the most important, even though I thought it was the least important, is that I wanted to feel comfortable being able to boondock on public lands by myself. I hadn't done it up to that point because I really didn't feel completely comfortable with my trailer being by myself. I would do it with friends, right? Because safety in numbers, all that stuff. But I didn't realize how much I was going to enjoy being on public land by myself. Right, Kit? That's one of our favorite things to do now. Yes, it is. Do I feel safe doing it by myself? Yes, I do. But I handle things differently probably than other people do. It's easy enough, and it's never happened, by the way. I've never had an issue. But I always think things through. So if I feel uncomfortable, I can simply walk up to the front, sit in the driver's seat, turn the key, and drive away. And for that reason, I generally don't leave anything outside, especially overnight, that I would not want to drive away from. Now, in the 2 years that I've been on the road full-time, I've had 2 times where I reached a place that I intended to be boondocking. One was outside of Yosemite this year, and I just didn't like the vibe. In that case, there was nobody there, that was making me feel uncomfortable. The place was not trashed. It didn't look like it had been overused or anything like that. But I got out of the rig, and I'm standing outside, and this was in late spring. Temperature was already down in the low 60s, and it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And something just didn't feel right, and I had no cell signal. So for that combination, I'm like, you know what? Not doing it. I'm not going to stay here. Now, I had already picked out a possible alternative campground that was about 15 minutes further back down the road, and that's what I ended up doing. I went there and stayed in a National Forest campground that night, and it was fine. And then the other time it happened was a few months ago, actually. I was traveling through Ohio, and I had picked 2 different possible boondocking locations, went to the first one, and I was really annoyed about this one, actually, because beautiful location. But it was very clearly posted, no overnight parking, no camping. And you could do all kinds of other things. You could train your bird dog. You could hunt. You could fish. I think you couldn't have a campfire. I think it was no fires, as I recall. But it was very clearly marked, no overnight parking, no camping. And the reason I was annoyed about it was that it was written up on iOverlander, and it had a review that was written up like a week ago, a week before I had gotten there or something. All right, that's current, so it should be fine. Not fine. And it's certainly not fine that people are posting camping locations that are clearly marked as not camping locations. That's the kind of behavior that gets more and more public lands closed to people that actually are, wanting to be able to use them. So, off my soapbox on that one. So I went on to the next one, which I had also found on iOverlander, and it took me about, I don't know, half an hour or so to get there. As I'm approaching the location, which was at the end of a narrowly paved road, I go from being in bright sun to heading steep and level to heading steeply downhill into dark trees that everything was damp, and there was like a lot of moss and all kinds of stuff, and I just didn't like the feeling. In fact, I didn't even go all the way down to the end of the road. I backed up a bit until I got to a place that I had just passed that I could turn around and left. Now here's where I messed up. I always believe in having a backup plan, so that was my backup plan. I needed a backup plan to my backup plan. And that particular evening, I ended up driving much later than I really wanted to. It was almost dark by the time I finally found something. And I ended up in the parking lot of a church's food pantry in a small town in Ohio, which worked out perfectly well. I'll try and remember to put a link to that video up here as well. Okay, so the next one that's really big for a lot of people that I get asked very frequently is, don't you get lonely? I don't. I enjoy my own company, and I really appreciate having the time to reflect and slow down from the hustle and bustle of conventional day-to-day life. So I talk to my friends periodically by phone. I maintain my connections that way. For me, I take the word alone, A-L-O-N-E, and I add an extra L, so it's A-L-L-O-N-E. I am all one. Now, that may or may not work for some people. It works for me. It's just the way I think about things. That said, I love it when I've got time to get together with friends and hang out. And in fact, that's why I just got a knock on the door while I was videoing this, because I'm hanging out with friends right now. We're at a meetup in Texas, and we're all having a great time. But it's cold as all get out. It's like 37 degrees today, so I decided to sit inside and make this video for you guys. And finally, this is the way that I think about it, but I'm going to tell you the way I usually get asked. So, how has living in an RV changed my perspective on possessions and the essentials of daily life? Or, what most people say is, don't you miss having all your stuff? And again, the answer for me is, I have everything I need. It's with me all the time. And in fact, it feels really weird, like when I get in somebody else's car or truck to go someplace with them, and I realize I've left something behind, like my water bottle, or if we're going out to eat, because I've got a lot of food allergies, my EpiPen, So, it's really, I love having everything I need with me all the time. I'm very aware of that what I bring into my home, I need to be sure that I've got a place for it. And so I'm frequently making donations to get rid of things I don't really need or use. I've also found that living with fewer possessions is really stress-reducing, not stress-inducing. Because if I really want to get something, I can go get it. I just don't need that many things. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you got something useful out of it. I'd love to know what you think, and if you have questions that you'd like me to answer, leave them in a comment down below. And as always, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.